The murder of UnitedHealthcare executive Brian Thompson has highlighted the public anger directed at the healthcare industry in the U.S. Joining us now, Harvard University's Arthur Brooks, American Enterprise Institute president emeritus. He's a columnist for The Atlantic, a podcast host, and an author of a lot of books, including Build the Life You Want. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you, Arthur. I mean, I can go back. We've all had experiences, I think, with insurance companies, and not just health insurance. One of the things I have thought insurance companies do, when you finally use them for something you've been paying for years, sometimes they cancel you. You finally put in a claim, and like they can't. So we know that it's a tough business to some extent. We understand that, but when it comes to your health, that ratchets up the anger and the what happens. But normally, something like this isn't the outcome. And my question, Arthur, is if it was just a person that apparently had some serious pain and maybe there are drugs involved, and I don't, and obviously an unbalanced individual, it's the response to it that is so I don't know, discouraging, disappointing, infuriating. And I'm just wondering, is that just another example of social media, or do we suck now as a society?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And by the way, it was really heartening to see all of you drinking wine at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I did not. Becky was guzzling wine that wasn't wine.
It was the non-alcoholics were really good.
So they said, but she's been acting really crazy since then.
It didn't start with that.
Well, the schedules you keep, it's already 3 o'clock in the afternoon for all of you.
That's right.
Right, exactly.
Anyway. In answer to your question, look, this is the internetization. This is the social mediaization of all of the things that we have. Americans are perfectly capable of keeping two conflicting ideas in their minds. Number one, healthcare is a disaster for most people in the experience that they have of it in this country. We don't have a free market system. We don't have price transparency. We have all kinds of crazy regulations, and the result is it's an extremely expensive and frustrating experience that in the most advanced country in the world that we have a healthcare system that's inadequate to the needs of most Americans. We know that. The second thing is that an innocent guy was gunned down in broad daylight in the biggest city in America. That's a different idea. It's not morally nuanced. A man was assassinated in broad daylight in New York City, and he was completely innocent. And we can most Americans can hold these things apart from each other. The problem is that that social media wants to conflate these things because the people on social media, the pathology that is social media, wants to say that this is, as Elizabeth Warren said, it's a warning. It's not a warning. It's a murder is what it actually is. And the fact that I am frustrated by my health care insurance potentially has nothing to do with the fact that this innocent guy got killed.
And that's just one of the things that's happened recently, Arthur. After the election, and President-elect Trump is not president yet, but there is, we're in kind of, other than this mess, we're in kind of a sweet spot in terms of the possibility maybe for the country coming together. But I think it's ephemeral, and I think it's transitory. And I think that after January 20th and some of the tough things that are going to be happening after that, I think we're going to just go right back to the bickering. And I wish we wouldn't, but it seems like we've passed the Rubicon with large parts of the country.
Yeah, well, the problem here is that we have too many market incentives to keep driving people apart in this country. And so there's too much of the political establishment and the media establishment, especially social media, is monetized to actually have us fighting with each other constantly. And so finding any wedge,
so that's
like the case at hand, and that's the problem. But you know what? What's that?
So it is social media. I just wonder whether society has changed for the worse, or whether you don't think so? Do you think it's social media?
No, I don't think so. And the reason is because when you talk to people and they're not glued to their devices, which is most people living their ordinary lives, they don't think this way. Recall that there's a tiny percentage of the population that's weighing in on these things and making outrageous statements on social media. Now, it can affect the broader discourse because, once again, what gets the eyeballs is the outrageous stuff. But what's happening around the kitchen table and in most people's homes is not this type of thing. thing, and people can actually maintain the distinction between healthcare frustrations and the murder of an innocent guy. And that's the really important thing to keep in mind. All of us need to work hard, however, who have public positions, all of us. We have a public opportunity to say that's wrong, this is ridiculous, and to use all the weight that we've got, that we're blessed to have, to try to bring people together and to make these types of distinctions and to not fall prey to the artificial outrage that's going on to get clicks and eyeballs and followers and, quite frankly, dollars. We're being productized in this country by outrage, and this is a perfect example.
People should know better. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel should not be talking about bringing cookies, baking some cookies for the guy in prison. People should, grousing on social media and, stupid anonymous memes, the horrific things that happen on social media. It's still nowhere. It's qualitatively different and a quantum leap to gun someone down in cold blood.
Yeah, totally. And, the interesting thing about this, it's important to keep in mind that in reality, social media doesn't exist. When you turn it sideways, you can't see it. When you turn it off, it goes away. And this is something that the human brain is not accustomed to perceive. We have a tendency to see something in front of us and assume it's as real as an actual human being in bodily form. It's just not the case.
Arthur, so let me ask you this. I've been on preaching, actually, Joe and Becky, I think we actually all agree very much that this sort of inspired by conversation is deeply troubling. And that's not to say there shouldn't be a conversation about health insurance and that whole world.
Yeah, of course.
It's just in this context, it seems like it's a terrible incentive system, if you will. Having said that, and we can decide whether social media is fake or not, a lot of the response that I've gotten over the past week to sort of this kind of message is, Andrew, you're missing the boat. You don't see it, which is to say that actually, and I've heard this over and over, violence and protest and all of this, and they put the violence and the protest together, they say is what creates change. And so what I deeply worry about is that actually 2, 3, 4 years from now, we may actually look back at this moment, and if there is change in the healthcare insurance industry, people will point to this, and that will be a terrible lesson in some regard. Yeah.
And I suppose that's what Senator Warren meant when she said it's a warning. But I don't think that's actually what we're going to take from this. I think this is going to be, but this is a signal not of something to come about how much we hate the health insurance or the health care industry in the United States. I think it's an example of the radicalism that has crept into the fringes of American politics and actually how much we hate it. I think we'll probably look back to this and say an assassination of a law-abiding citizen who ran a legal company, that was an example of how bad things actually got. I think this can be the beginning of something better, not the beginning of something that's worse to come. But it's in our hands. We have to interpret it in the right way, and we have to be completely morally clear about what this is.